pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for attending today's meeting. In case you didn't see Paul's email, removing the agenda item of a potential revision to the tennis guest policy, I want to let everybody know that that's been removed from today's agenda and we will not discuss it today. I just want to say I'm sorry, my apologies for adding this to the agenda. It was a mistake on my part and premature to add it at this time. Paul, you want to go ahead and take roll, certify the quorum and proof of the notice?
All right, so we have Joel Mulcahy, Matt Barger, George Custis, Nathaniel Monks, Brian McAdon, Uwe Roper, and Jim Carter present, so a full quorum for the meeting, and notice was posted as required.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Number 5 on the agenda is to approve the prior meeting notes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the any comments or changes to the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so
Aye.
approved. Okay, so I'm going to jump into a brief president's report. I just want to thank everybody for their support of Courtside. There's music again tonight, 5 to 8 with Sean Foy, Yacht Rock. He plays in the 180 band around Naples. Now he's got a gig on his own. We had a great time with him the last time he played at Courtside, so hope to see some of you there tonight. As you can see, the pickleball courts are moving along. They're working on the painting this week. Without any more rain, hopefully they'll have that done soon. Paul's going to give a better update in terms of completion dates. I think you can see the hole that's being dug around the back into the fire pit. The gas tank's going in for there, and Paul's looking at some tile selections for cosmetic finishes to the fire pit. He can address a further update on that in his report. If you haven't been back to the area adjacent to the bocce courts, the roof, the screens, fans are all installed. I've had several people in the community come up and say they're very pleased with this back area and glad to see that folks are using it. There was a couple mahjong tables back there this afternoon. In the general manager's report, Paul will share an update as to the status of the patio next to Court 6. And one last item, I don't know if how many people this has affected. It's impacted myself, but evidently if you're on AT&T, there's a cell tower that's been out. And so I haven't been able to call out or receive phone calls, text messages, etc. It's been about 3 days now. So if you haven't been able to get a hold of people, it's an AT&T problem. I went up to the store and
Same problem, Joe.
well, it's their problem, but it's made my problem. And then finally, we've got some great news to share about the gatehouse on 41. Instead of me sharing this update, I want to ask Bob Giannetti with the CDD to please come up and share the most recent update.
Somebody should give me
Good afternoon, everyone. We had our meeting yesterday and there were 3 contractors that gave their proposals, and Heatherwood won the bid. And we're thrilled about it because that's their specialty and they're out of Bonita. And then we have some really good news that FEMA flood maps, the new ones just came out and we do not have to raise up the gatehouse. So we're going to save $250,000 there. The other thing is that when we were talking to Heatherwood, they agreed to open up 1 lane that we can use to access out of Pelican Marsh, which also then could be used for emergency access. We already had allocated another way to do that. So we were going to spend $80,000. We're going to save that $80,000. So in turn, we saved $300,000 on yesterday's meeting, which is wonderful. The project is supposed to start in May. That's still on schedule. Should last about 6 months. They do this for a living, so I kind of trust their timeline, at the same time, we still have to, fight with the elements, and that's it.
Bob, thanks.
Yep.
And since you've been in charge and taken over CDD, everything's just sort of risen. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Seriously.
Okay, foundation management report, Paul.
Okay, so season's officially started this month and we're off to a good start, or actually a great start. Our pirate theme welcome back party a few weeks ago was a big success. Thank you to Lynn and the team for putting the event together. Please check the activity calendar to see all the other great events we have lined up for this season. For those residents who have not signed up on the website and or downloaded the Pelican Marsh app, please contact the admin office so you can get signed up. The website and the app are the easiest and fastest ways for you to get signed up for events and learn about other activities going on in Pelican Marsh. As Joe mentioned, we are just about completed with most of our projects over the summer. As he said, the fire pit we're getting close. I'm guesstimating about another couple weeks and we'll be ready to go, just in time for the cooler weather coming our way. The hurricanes in October delayed us a little bit in the construction, the progress of the pickleball courts. However, they're now back out working and all indications hopefully will be ready for play sometime by mid-December. So we're doing our best to get to that point. The paver patio that we have planned going on the west side of the community center, which is adjacent to Court 6, is still being mapped out. We pulled out the bushes and we've got the contract signed. We're just waiting for the pavers to be produced. They should be delivered by the first or second week in December, and then they're ready to go right in and put the patio. It's about a 3-day job. So hopefully by the end of December, we'll have that all ready to go. The upgrades of the landscaping around the community center are just about complete. We just basically have left is doing some decorative rock that's going to line the beds along the front entryway and some other areas around the complex. And he also mentioned, as he's mentioned, the project of installing the roof on the pergola, as well as the solar shades, solar shading, and the new larger fans have now been installed back on the back patio next to the bocce courts, which now gives us a much more larger and usable space for cards and other activities, just in time for season coming up. For those returning to Naples here from the up north, just a reminder that the rains and humid weather over the summer may have caused buildup of dirt and mildew on your home's roof, walls, and other surfaces. Please make sure you schedule this cleaning and or maintenance of your home as needed. We've already sent out some notices already to some homes that need to have attention done, especially on the roofs being cleaned. Once the budget is passed, be looking for the 1st of December, the invoices for the foundation's 2025 maintenance fees. Just make sure you had those maintenance fees returned to us by the due date on the invoice, which is January 1st. Lastly, my staff and I want to wish everyone a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving holiday and safe travels to those who are visiting their family and friends. And as I say every year, Patrick and his trainers will be on standby after the holidays for those residents who may need a little help removing those extra pounds from all the turkey and other goodies consumed. So just give them a call if you need help. That's my report. Any questions?
Okay, thanks again, Paul. Number 8 on the agenda, Nathaniel, Treasurer's report.
Okay, for what I'm going to do today is we're going to go over the treasurer's report for ending October 31, and I'm going to give you the abbreviated version and the highlights. And we won't get off into the numbers because later in this meeting, we'll go over the budget for the whole year. And if you add all those numbers together, just too much numbers. So these will be posted on the Pelican Marsh website. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me or Paul anytime. And next month, I'll go more in depth because we'll do all the pages of the report. This is the highlights, and it's another good month. The total operating surplus was $59,000, which is $14,000 better than budget. Mostly we actually had a lower cable expense. That was unexpected, and we got good positive results in several areas such as fitness and court sports. And we've had a lot of interest income this year. In fact, This year and last year, we've had the most interest income, I think, that probably Pelican Marsh has ever had. I believe right now we're over 75,000. The operating revenues year to date were 23,000, better than budget, mostly due to that chunk of interest and some other revenues. Expenses were over budget also. We had higher payroll and benefits. We actually budgeted in extra money for higher insurance, and it still wasn't enough. Insurance was even higher than we expected. And we had some computers break and some fire systems break also. So that came out of the budget. So we appreciate the fact we had this extra interest income. The activity centers were better than budget by over $19,000. Those of you who go into the restaurant and supporting us outside at Courtside, I appreciate that. Food and beverage, that's the Courtside out there. Their sales are up from last year, and last year they had a good year, and so no one's getting tired of it and quit going. I guess we're at 894,000. That's a good. Resales, the houses where we get our money from reselling houses in Pelican Marsh. We've had 61 net, which means 61 that were not counting people that were moving around within Pelican Marsh that got a break on the fee, so 61 new ones. This exceeds budget by 6 homes and 45,000. However, if I were to read the tea leaves right, I think that sales have slowed down a little bit, so we're probably not going to end the year up very much, but it looks like the budget will be pretty close for the resale fees. Every year, what we do with this board is take all the money from resale fees and put it into the reserve fund until it's fully funded for the whole year. That's almost 300,000. It goes up every year. We're getting a reserve study done next year, so we don't know exactly what the future years will be like, but they gave us, the last time we had one, we had every year incrementing. And so this year it went up to 296,000. And so we took all the resale fees, packed that in there until July. And then after that, any resales that happened, that money went into the capital fund. And the operating fund got its money only from your HOA fees. That's everything for this abbreviated report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nathaniel. Any questions about the treasurer's report or anything we've covered so far? Okay. We've got new business. 9.1 on the agenda, a vote to adopt the resolution which authorizes electronic voting in Pelican Marsh per Florida statute 720.317. I know, Paul, we noticed this to the community. So we put it on the agenda to go ahead and vote now.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then next is the vote to approve the proposed 2025 foundation operational budget. We went over it in detail last month. Anything to add there, Nathaniel, before we vote?
No, I move that we approve it as we gave it to the community last month.
I think it deserves some discussion.
And Joe, I have a presentation to make. I would like to do that whenever it's convenient, because I don't believe we should include in this 2025 budget an assessment to the community for the capital fund. And each member of the board now has a copy of the presentation I'm going to make. And I think, Paul, you have it to put up on the screen so that the members present could see. He's going to pull that up. Okay, the very first point I'm going to make is that we first need to resolve our parking issues, existing and future, before we do anything. Now, there has been a number discussed that there's 13 parking spaces across the street. However, there has been no agreement, no contract, no planning as to how you're going to put those in, what it's going to cost to do it, et cetera. So I'm saying that before we do anything in our planning workshop in December, we have to address that issue. And until we resolve that, I don't really think we should be doing anything else.
Other than a yearly maintenance fee, there has been no additional fees charged to members for use of the facilities. And this is pretty key because a lot of communities may have lower transfer fees, but then they charge you additions for using the facilities in their community. So we in Pelican Marsh, once you pay your maintenance fee, you can use everything and there's no additional cost. When a new member moves into Pelican Marsh, the resale fee is their buy-in to the existing amenities and previous members have paid for. Now, today, the value of our amenities is $24 million. So you buy into Pelican Marsh, your transfer fee is a buy-in to something that already exists and been paid for. Past precedence has been to fund proposed capital projects from resale fees. If there was not enough money in the capital fund for a project, we then borrowed the money and paid it back the loan through resale fees that were collected. That's how we paid for the construction of this community center, which was $1 million, and we paid it off in about 3 years. For members' input through surveys, and the last one I believe was done around 2020, we have spent approximately $1.5 million in capital funding since 2020 in adding or upgrading our amenities, all funded through resale fees and not assessing the membership. And I think that is a very key point. For the past 6 years, we have met and exceeded our resale field goals. And I think in the next 4 years, you're going to find that money is going to be pretty readily available if there is a need to borrow money to do something with capital and then repay it out of the resale fee. With adding capital funding into the budget, we are essentially now assessing the members without first hearing from them, which was planned on our upcoming long-range planning workshops. We haven't heard from the members. We don't know what you want. And so what we're saying is we're going to assess you for something that is not even here yet. In conclusion, our mechanism has always been to fund our capital and reserve funds from resale fees. If we needed to increase the capital funding, we could raise our resale fee. For example, we've raised the resale fee from $7,500 to $9,000, which is still competitive within the market. We would raise an additional $97,500 in capital funding without having to assess the members through the budget. Now how do we raise the resale fee? At any board meeting prior, it is put on the agenda. For 2025, if we needed to increase the resale fee, in December, that item could be put on the agenda. Now, we have, in the last one, I'm going to keep this in mind. We have never gone to the members and assessed for a capital project. Never in the history of Pelican Marsh. We've been here for over 30 years, and we've never done that. We've always done it through resale fees, and I see no reason why we would set a precedent by turning around and saying, we're going to now assess you for something we haven't even built. And I would also keep in mind that our maintenance fee is much lower than other area clubs for the amenities we offer, which should make raising the resale fee by $1,500 not an issue for potential home buyers. So in conclusion, I would say that once you start deviating from precedents and you start a new method or idea, it's not going to go away. Whether it's this board or future boards, just say, okay, what's a few more dollars to put into capital? And I say, it's like an alcoholic coming to me and saying, I'm only going to have one drink. Those are my remarks. I hope the board will take it under consideration. And when appropriate, I would like to see that number removed from this year's budget.
I think Jim makes some great points. I would actually love to spend more time picking up on some of your points. I want to put a little different spin on it. If you recall, for those of you that were at the meeting last time, the way this came about is the budget that was originally tabled by the Finance Committee did not include this additional amount for capital.
Yes, it did. It didn't include this dollar amount, but it included a provision.
A small,
for
yes, a
capital
small,
funding.
a small
It
provision.
was increased by this board.
Correct, right. And then we had a discussion at the last meeting as to the fact that this is a brand new type of fee. It's new in that, just like Jim says, we haven't done this before. And therefore, there was some lively discussion. I advocated at that meeting that we try to go out and put that out to the community and that we not approve the budget in October, that we wait till November, which has caused some problems for some of the HOAs, I found out, because they need our number to do their budgets. But basically what I wanted to see is to put this out to the community as a trial balloon. And here's why I think the trial balloon is important. And here's why I think it was a great idea, whether we adopt it or not. I think it was a great idea for the finance committee to put this trial balloon out there. We want to start a process over the next little while to talk about long-range planning for Pelican Marsh. We've made some significant improvements the last few years. I think the restaurant, the pickleball, some of those are very visible. And I think the question will be in the long-range planning, number one, do we want to do more of that? Do we want to continue to build out the Pelican Marsh Foundation facilities? And if so, if that's what we want to do, we will in parallel need a discussion on how we're going to pay for it. I think, Jim, you make some excellent points about, yes, we could increase that fee. That's obviously one good option. I think there are several places where we can raise money for if we decided in the long range plan to move forward with larger projects, such as expanding the facility and creating more room, creating more parking. All those things will have significant capital budgets attached to them. So I think we need to start talking about whether and how we're going to finance these long range plans. So I would like to see in the long range planning in parallel a discussion on how we're going to finance it. So I really appreciate Jim's input on raising the transfer fee. Just a quick note on there, if you were to take that transfer fee of 7,500 times 2,000 homes, that's 15 million. And Jim, you said our facility is valued at 24 million. I actually agree with that, which means our transfer fee actually is too low based on that calculation basis.
And if the transfer fee went up $1,500, it'd throw off $97,500 in 1 year. So, in a couple of years, you got almost $200,000 you got back into capital, and you not assessed any of the current members. And we've never had a problem meeting our resale numbers in all the years that I've been here. There's 100 different reasons why that's true, but I'm just going to tell you it's location, location, location. You can't find a community like Pelican Marsh anywhere that has all the lakes and all the roadways and the trees and everything for what you pay to live in this community.
You're here. But so going forward, we have several options for how we're going to fund further capital projects in Pelican Marsh, if that's what we decide to do as part of the long-term planning. One of them would be the transfer fee, continue to expand and raise the transfer fee. Another one is to add a capital fee to the annual budget, as this trial balloon is trying to put forward. And by the way, this trial balloon was put forward by the Finance Committee, I believe, only as a one-year item.
One time.
To fill a gap, and the gap occurred because we spent a lot of money on putting the pickleball courts in. We depleted the fund, and this would help us replenish that fund more quickly than waiting a whole year for resale fees to accumulate.
And
But that aside,
it also occurred, Ove, because we do have a quote for the 16 parking spots across the street if we're able to move forward with them, and that's $262,000.
right,
So it was
There was-
done with that in mind as well.
right. But it was intended as sort of a one-time trial balloon. But I think it raises an important question for the community that I think we need debate on. That debate is how we're going to finance things. Resale fees, adding a fee to the annual fee. One really good suggestion I recently had was, should we start a donut program? A resident came to me and said, Pelican Marsh could do well starting a donut program.
A donut program? Like a
Donor.
glazed donut? Oh, donor.
But
Not donut, donor.
But the donut.
Nothing wrong with that. If we have additional ideas, it'll certainly make Pelican Marsh a bigger community. So So I think it is important to talk about how we're going to fund these things. As to this particular item, I'm torn on it. When this trial balloon was put out by the committee, I actually said at the last meeting, I think we should actually increase it. We ended up upping it. Like you said, the finance committee had a small amount. I actually recommend if you're going to go out and do this, put a bigger amount. The reason I wanted that is I wanted a response from the community. And unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of response. We've had some. I think there were 3 emails that went into Paul. I really
Yep.
appreciate that. 2 of those individuals have approached me individually, so I've already heard those comments. But I was expecting a lot more feedback. I went to the Les Chateaux. I live in Les Chateaux. I went to the Les Chateaux meeting. I was expecting a lively discussion at the Les Chateaux meeting, and crickets. There was no comment or question about that. I was ready to talk to the budget item, the Pelican Marsh Foundation budget item. There's been nothing. I don't know if that means that everybody's fine with having this $130 extra fee in the budget for the year, or if it just means people are not paying attention and we haven't heard from them. And I would actually like to, before we approve this, personally, I'd like to hear from some of our attendees.
Well, okay, thanks. We'll get to that, Brian.
Yeah, just real brief. I think both Jim and Uwe have voiced very good concerns. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm open to looking into this process and modifying, in essence, what we've done in the past, but I am quite interested in hearing what the community has to say.
Daniel, anything further?
Yes, all good points. I appreciate that. It is true that it's not exactly like anything we've ever done before. We did last year have money to go in the budget to go to the reserve fund. And even though it's funded by the HOA, it's by the resale fees, but the finance committee and the board recognized that the reserve account, even though it met the requirements, it looked awfully low. And so we put in $50,000 in last year's budget just to put in the reserve account, just in case the reserve account ever needed it. So it's not unprecedented that part of your operating budget would also have something for one of the other 2 accounts. There's 3 accounts: reserve account, self-explanatory, capital account to improve your amenities, and then the operations account, day-to-day operations. I would like to try not to glaze your eyes over too much with the numbers, but I want to go over several quick things. And I apologize that you had them all together. It's not quick. But since my good friend, Mr. Carter, Jim Carter, has put this thoughtful piece together, I would like to expound a little bit on a few of his points. But one thing is that Uwe just mentioned that he's not heard much and he thought he'd hear more from the community. I think that part of it is perspective. The line item that we're talking about is $130 for 1 year, each family. And if you think about it, you've got an HOA fee for a couple $1,000s for Pelican Marsh. And then in your own community, you have an HOA fee, except for maybe a couple of you. And if you think about your HOA fee in your community, it might be, depending on where you live, $5,000, $7,000, $9,000. And so part of the reason that we haven't had riots about the $130 is that it's kind of a rounding error, but it is an important one. And the reason that I have advocated that we strongly consider doing this, I'll tell you now. But first, I want to mention, can we bring Mr. Carter's paper back up to there? He had his first he thought that we should not do anything until we take care of parking. It is true that we have a smaller parking lot than we would like to have sometimes when several things happen at once, the parking lot gets full. I would recommend that we do what we can when we can. There is a plan for parking. We're at the mercy of other entities of when that can happen. Can't happen right now. In the future, we do believe we'll be able to put together some parking spots. It will cost us probably more than the $250,000, which requires you to give us the go-ahead. We can't do it now, though. It's not available yet, but it will be in the future. I would recommend that when we want to do something that we don't borrow the money. If you borrow money, then you have to pay interest on the money. And unless it's something that is so large that's the only feasible way of doing it, then it seems like it would be unwise to be paying interest on money. It's kind of, I don't think it's good to pay interest on money that you can afford to pay. And so since we're talking about a one-time $130 fee in a $2,000 HOA fee, borrowing seems like not the best way to go. I also would recommend that we not raise the resale fee for two reasons. One, we did a quick study of the resale fees in the surrounding areas and the other neighborhoods around here. We have one of the highest ones already. When a person is thinking about buying a house, they have many options. And it is, I can get a copy of it for you later, but we are, I believe, out of the maybe 12, 15 communities that we searched around, we were, I believe, the second highest. And a lot of the communities had a, $2,000, $3,000 fee, and ours is already at $7,500, been raised twice recently. But even if we raise the fee $1,500, that means that we could do that. If we could do that today, then we could wait 1 year and we'd have 100,000, a little less than $100,000 extra, more than what we would have then. 100,000 doesn't actually get us on our way to build anything. The reason I strongly recommended this line item be 250,000 for the capital fund is that for several years we've had a problem here. It started, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago, when because of younger people, more active people, the community outgrew the gym. And there was more people working out in the gym than there used to be. And as part of you guys, we're getting more healthy and more people work out than they used to. The gym is the same size it was when this place got built many years ago, when nobody worked out and everybody just stood around smoking like on TV. And now people are working out. Now we also, since COVID, have had a younger demographic move in. You've seen all these young people moving in and they work out even more. And now we have trainers. For those of you who don't go to the gym, the trainers are the ones that help you get started when you go to the gym. So if we have like 3 trainers working out, they have 3 customers. It's a very tiny gym. You got half a dozen other people working out, and then the 3 trainers and their 3 customers, you're tripping over each other in a gym that's already too small. Now, we did do our homework. The board has done the due diligence. Some people says, oh, this bounced out of nowhere. It did not bounce out of nowhere. Over 5 years, Matt and I have been very noisy about this gym needs to be expanded. And the board said, yes, it does need to be expanded. And then one emergency after another came along. The long-term planning committee that was put together several years ago put this down as, I believe, the number 3 item that was most needed, most requested by the community. And number 1 was a restaurant. So we started with a restaurant. The restaurant is wonderful. It's doing what it's supposed to do. The gym is still too small. Then when we created the restaurant, we had to give away the bike room. Straight across the hall from here was where the spin room was, and they had the spin lessons for the bicycles, and people love that, and that's essentially part of fitness. But now it is a kitchen. And so ever since there's been a restaurant, since before there's been a restaurant, while we were building out, the bike room has been orphaned, completely orphaned. And so sometimes the bikes are over here, sometimes they're over there, and no matter where they're at, they got to be moved for the class and then put back where they used to be. So the bicycle classes, the people want more bicycle classes, but we can't have them because later in the day, there's nowhere to have them. And so the spin room desperately needs to be given back to us. And so the board has got estimates from contractors of what it would cost to make that extra room for the spin room into the expanded gym, and then a second proposal into expanding the gym a different direction inwards. So anyway, the background, we've got the quotes. The quotes are even aged now. We believe we're going to have to go back and maybe rejigger the quotes a little bit. So we don't have exact numbers, but I'm going to use a fake number to help my illustrated point. We have a bid for, say, like $350,000 to do one gym expansion, and maybe another one for a similar amount of money to do it a different way. And maybe eventually future boards may decide to do them both, maybe expand it this way and that way. But either way, it's going to cost more than $250,000. And if we ever vote to spend that, and we will, we'll get your permission first. We have to get your permission. You'll get a ballot in the mail, and after today's vote, you'll be able to vote without a ballot in the mail. Please sign up for that so we don't keep sending you stamps. And then, so this is nothing this is not bypassing you in any way, shape, or form. The same thing on the parking. Once the authorities that have the control over our future parking spots, someday we're going to get those and we'll get your permission before we spend that. But at the end of this year, our capital account fund, the account we spend the money out of to improve amenities and to grow, that fund will essentially be empty, be very close to empty. And so in order to do it the way that Jim recommends that we do, is just wait till we sell enough houses to where the money is sitting there in the capital account. I'd like for you to do a little finger math here. And the first half of next year, all we're going to do is pack the money into the reserve account, because that's the smart, safe thing that we do. So all the sales of the first half of the next year are going to go into that account, to the reserve account. Now, I'd also bring out that since COVID first got over with, sales for houses have been low. Historically, we sold a little over 100 houses a year forever and ever. Now, either you guys are getting better medical care and living longer, because that's what really sells a house. You die, somebody carts you out, and the house goes up for sale. Either that or something else is happening, but now we're having a hard time getting 65 houses sold a year. So when house sales are only 65 instead of 100, now you can't even do the round numbers. It'll take you a very long time to get enough money to expand the gym a little bit. So it'll be very difficult. What I'm proposing is that we have this one line item, one time that we, and it's alcoholic, it's going to stop with one drink. One time we'll get that $130 will give us $250,000, which will get us most of the way towards that expansion. If the board chooses to do so, and the board will choose to do so unless you give them a completely different idea at the long range planning we will have in about a month. In about a month, we're going to again request you to come here and tell us what you think we should do as far as expansion of your amenities, and things like the gym and parking and other things will come up. So anyway, I've talked way longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to make sure everybody understood what we were talking about. This is not just willy-nilly. This is the background has been placed. We've done our homework, and it's I believe it's worth it to us to step up to the plate a little bit one time. Thank you.
George.
I've gone back and forth on this since it was originally brought up in the last meeting, and I was originally in favor of it. However, right now I am not in favor of it. I do appreciate your points, Nathaniel. And at first, one of my big reasons for voting for it was like, it's only $130. But I'm speaking for the members now, and I'm not speaking for my $130. And I haven't heard enough from them. I'd like to hear some more from them, but as of now, I plan on voting no. Also, I'm a frequent user of the gym. I shouldn't say frequent. I go once or twice a week. I've never had a problem. I know I don't go early in the mornings when most people probably do. And that gets me to the tennis people and the pickleball people. I want to play in the morning. I want to play in the morning. Well, you know what? You could sign up once or twice a week and play and go in the afternoon. And we have the technology and with the apps that we have and the software we have to do that. So long and short of it is, I don't think there's any need to rush into this right now. We have a planning session coming up. We can discuss exactly if and how we want to grow the gym. And in that same short period of time, I'm sure there's something Paul could come up with to figure out how to store those spin bikes. That's all I have to say for now.
I'm with you. I don't think that we should be setting aside $250,000 when we could be putting it into some fund that could be making money as opposed to some idea in the future. If we're gonna be building or expanding the gym, don't you think a lot of the work that was done by Paige Gianetti and me back in 2021 should be revisited before we set aside $250,000? Or I don't know. I'm a no. I'm leaving it at that.
Okay, I've heard everybody's arguments. I'm looking forward to hearing comments from the community. I'll just give you my 2 cents. I may change my mind after hearing the community, but we already know that we need to, we've got a few of these things, like I get an earful all the time about the bicycles in the back. And we're out there playing tennis and they got the music going on, and then you see them all having to cart the stuff around. And I know that the Dino sent us a long email, and I know all of us read that, Dino, about what it looks like back there. And so we have things that have already been out there from a planning perspective that we have not been able to do. And so from my perspective, I think $130 is something that we need to continue to invest in the community. We know we do. If I was doing something in my house, I would start setting aside the money now and not have to wait a year or wait 2 years to do something because we don't have the funds. So I'm on the side with Nathaniel that we include this, but I'd like to hear comments from the community.
Joe, before we open up to community, just point of clarification, Paul. Is there such a way that this money could be set aside for only those projects that exceed 250,000 so that we know that it's only going to be spent if the community in essence approves that project?
And as a drawdown.
We don't want to draw it down. We don't want to pit it away. We want to make sure it's available for a major project.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
The board take a vote that this money should be allocated only for capital projects. But any new board that comes in, if it were to happen, they can change that vote. So it's not as good as the existing board.
Thank you, Paul.
And in the meantime, that money would be drawing interest, right? If the money
That's
came
the
in.
point.
Yeah, I want to verify with Paul, our money does draw interest while we're not spending it.
Any funds we collect, the operational or reserves or capital that is not being used, we'll be putting into e-bills.
Okay, so it would be drawing interest and actually increasing itself until the board spent the money. If we don't do this, we're looking at 2027 or 2028 before we could expand the gym. Today
Actually
is the
not.
last,
Unless you
today's
do an
the last
assessment.
day.
Actually not. I
Well,
don't believe what you're saying, Nate, by any means.
Explain.
Well, we already have plans that have been put into place, and if I have to dig them out here and put them in front of everybody, I will. But the plans were, and we have the ability to add 600 square feet right off of the front entranceway, right?
Yes,
We already went through this.
that's what we're talking about. So
Okay.
we have the plans, we just don't have the money.
We don't have the money.
Let's
I
ask
think
them
this
then.
is what you're referring to, Matt, the one that was done by, um,
You mean this one?
this one, was done about 4 years ago, community center plan.
You mean this
D'Angelo
one?
Diamond is the one. that
Because
put-
you guys don't understand. This has been since 2021. Right?
Yeah, so I don't know, I don't think a lot of new members of the board have seen any of this. I don't think the community has seen it, Matt. I'm glad you're not supporting this. The thing on the parking really, frankly, annoys me because there's nothing definite. Oh, we will get the plan. They're going to agree to it. I want to see it in writing. Every board member want to see that in writing. The community should see it in writing. There is no reason to do anything until you know how in the devil you're going to park people. The second thing is you could make this a 24-hour gym by one motion by the board, and people go work out whenever they want. It's a scheduling problem more than a space problem.
Just another point of clarification. We do have approval from the county to add up to 1,000 square feet of indoor space based on our current parking conditions. Now,
1,200.
I'm sorry, Matt.
1,200.
Thank you.
Arthur, you're gonna have to come up
We're
here.
online.
Yeah, Arthur Goldstein, Claremont. From what I understand, it's foreign because I came in a little late. I don't think
I didn't see any numbers up on the board. You've run out of money in the capital fund and your reserve funds are low. So the board has a right to create, in terms of their budgetary items, to make it a budgetary item. I mean, to say it's a one-time assessment, I think is silly, doesn't make sense. The other thing is, you're gonna be, when you do your reserve study, I can guarantee you that we're gonna have to pay a lot more for our reserves. And that's okay, because that's important that we have sufficient reserves to take care of the place. If you're going to have a project like whatever it is, expanding the gym, you want to put a fourth floor on here, whatever it is, at that point in time, doesn't it make sense to present the plan to the community and say it's going to cost $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, and this is what we plan to assess you each? I mean, you don't, it doesn't make sense to say, well, we're going to, one-time assessment, we're going to take $250,000, we're going to put it away, and maybe at some point down the road spend it. The appropriate way of doing it, I mean, you can't operate like you operate your house and say, you know, your wife says she wants a kitchen, I'm going to start saving now for a kitchen 2 years from now. It's not the way an HOA should operate. You have a capital project, you have a plan, you get bids, and then you submit that because we have to submit it to the community. Or if it's under $250,000, I guess that's the line, then you can assess everybody for it. And don't be afraid to do that.
Arthur, I'm with you.
You know,
And let me ask you,
this is not accounting wise, this makes no sense.
I know, let me ask everybody here, give me $130, okay, everybody, and I might spend it this year. All right?
Okay, thanks, Arthur.
Okay.
Thanks, Art.
Ange?
Angelo Scaleri, Marsh Links. I did respond and wrote a memo to Paul, who circulated it. I do appreciate all the comments that were made. And maybe I'm wrong, but of course, I made a comment against the assessment. We never had one, and I didn't want to see it because I thought it would stay forever. However, maybe I misread it, but as Arthur said, I didn't see any notes accompanying that request for assessment saying we're going to use the money to do this, this, and that. Okay, Nathaniel, I liked your comments. I think we should turn around and say the money is going to be used to do this, and we're going to have a vote on it. I also agree, I don't like to pay anybody interest. I don't now, never have, and I don't want it in the future. So I'd rather see us have an assessment. So I'll be contradictory to my memo and say, if you have plans and they're approved and it's better to assess, then let's do it. And I think we should double it to 250. Okay. But let's see the plans and let's make sure we're going to go ahead. There's nothing wrong if we have to do the gym, bocce court, or whatever. I think the community and the boards have been doing a great job adding amenities. And the discussion is healthy and very good. So I'm sitting here and I reversed my thinking, but I want to see where it's going to go. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ange.
Steve?
Steve Burke, Muirfield. So I asked Nathaniel a question. What is the total cost of the fire pit and the seating area, the removal of all the weeds and stuff next to the community center?
Paul would have a better
Paul has-
idea than me, but I'm close to 8,000. Is that correct?
So the fire pit's going to come in around 12 and a half.
12 and a half. 12,000.
And the seating area?
Seating area for the
Six.
Jason Ford 6.
Yeah.
That's going to come in right at I think 11,000.
Okay, so 20,000, something like that.
Adding the two together.
Right. So as we know, and a bunch of you guys were on the last board, so you know also well that we looked at the 2020 Page Genetti long-term planning report as the last credible gauge of what the community thought about how we should spend capital funds at Pelican Marsh. The first thing was the restaurant, second thing was pickleball. Third thing was the gym expansion. And, you know, the first two things have gone swimmingly. I mean, the restaurant is in and running and everybody's happy, and pickleball, I think is a difficult problem that, and a creative solution was, proposed and executed. It looks like it's going to work really well for the community, and I think it's, everybody should feel good about that. The third thing, however, before we spend any money on anything else, I think we really need to pay attention to what the people have already asked us for, which is expanding the gym. Now, I am sensitive to the comments by the folks who say, listen, it's a scheduling problem, not a capacity problem. But if you talk to Patrick about this, and you spend any time over there, you can see that intermittently throughout the year, scheduling doesn't solve a problem. We are updating this facility at a reasonable rate. I think it still is one of the premier residences, places to live in North Naples, and continues to be. And it deserves a fitness center that will serve a larger percentage of the population who lives here than the other projects that are currently being worked on. So I kind of think that it's a question of a hierarchy of needs, and if you agree that the gym is something that needs to be attended to, I think that you have to have a proposal. We already have plans, obviously. The plans for the spin room, as we know, have been done. We know what the cost was 3-4 years ago for that project. The additional expansion into the men's and women's locker room areas, we understand how much that would cost. It would be reasonable to propose that to the community and then to work on sources of funding. I don't like the idea of having an assessment which you can say is one time, but you really can't say that honestly, because we don't know what the next board is going to do. You don't know, I don't know, none of us know. Or the board after that, or the board after that. And it is a breaking precedent like this is something that requires a great deal of thought and, I think, community buy-in. So while I'm not really that opposed to the plan, I do think that you need to ask the community what they think about it before you approve this $130 addition to the HOA fee. It's good politics, if nothing else. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Older one, I guess. My name is Steve Barbario, Les Chateau. And I do use the gym, and up until about 2 weeks ago, I was an active user of it. My wife and I both use the gym. We've been talking about expanding the gym for multiple years now, and yet somehow pickleball expansion jumped over expanding the gym. That's because apparently scheduling, as Jim has mentioned, people don't pay attention to scheduling unless it's at the gym, okay? So let me just say this. I sat here several months ago with this very same board, and when we were talking about the pickleball expansion, the roof that needed to be done, and the parking that Jim is alluding to, this very same board swore up and down that there would be absolutely no per door assessment to handle the shortfall in the capital fund. Everything was covered by the capital fund. That was just a few months ago. Now suddenly, and regardless of whether it's a rounding error or not, and I like your presentation, it's not a rounding error when you violate your oath to the community.
Thanks.
Can I clarify on that?
Just-
You've possibly accidentally blurred two items together. The board said we can expand pickleball without an assessment, and we did.
You're right.
Full stop. So that is over. So now we're talking about a new project. And that doesn't mean when we said that we can expand pickleball without an assessment, that did not mean that we'll forever, never, will never need money.
I understand that.
and we can do the word game all over again, all over again. The fact of it is you're coming back and asking for an assessment because there was plenty of money in the capital fund for past projects. Obviously, there isn't. You're using
And thank you for the comment. I agree with you because as my memory serves me, and that is the commitment we made, that we had enough money to do all these things without hinting or saying to you, but next year we're going to be out of money and we're going to have to come back and assess you outside of the box of resale fees.
Jim, at the time you were president and we did have the money.
No, I'm talking this year, Matt.
I know, but back in
Rich Benson.
2021,
We did, yes, we did have it.
I'm Rich Benson. I live in Portofino. I mean, I just like to reiterate what Steve said. First of all, I applaud you guys wanting to make things better, and that's good. What we're talking about is how you do it. Back in May, you said, and I quote, on the pickleball voting, no assessment. The cost of $425,000 can be paid from our existing capital fund without the need for an assessment to residents. That's exactly true. I mean, you guys would not lie. However, that took all the money out of the pocket. And now you're saying, oh, I want to refill my pockets. And you're not telling me what you want to spend the money for. And to Angelo's point, if you told me, you know, you wanted to do blah, 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 and everybody liked it, including me, then I would give you more money even. But I'm not going to give you money for what I don't know. It's like when you walk by a church and you see somebody begging and they want $100 and you don't know what they're going to do. I'll go into church and give them the $100 because I think I know what they're going to do. So if I think I know what you're going to do, you'll get the money. And I think you want to tell us what you're going to do because you're going to have a long-term planning meeting. The unfortunate thing, you haven't had it before you ask us for the money.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it. Others? Any other comments? Sure.
My name's Jim Roberts and I live in La Chateau and serve on the board. And one of the things, we just did our budget meeting recently. And one of the things our president does is show the HOA fee increases over the last 10 years and the Pelican Marsh fees increasing over the 10 years. And I get a lot of complaints from residents saying they've gone up so much. Well, I explained to them it includes cable and includes internet, so forth. You made a funny comment because I was under the assumption that Pelican Marsh fees went up this coming year for cable. And I thought I heard you in your presentation that we actually saved money on the cable.
There was a one-time, Paul, how did that work? There was a one-time cable rebate sort of thing, right?
So when we budgeted for cable for this year's budget, we actually budgeted too much money. We assumed the taxes would be higher than they were. So we budgeted about $7,000 more than we needed for this year's budget. That's why there is a surplus.
But cable did go up. Cable goes up by contract.
And that's what I
And so it didn't go up as much as we thought it was going up.
That's what I figured. I want to say one other thing if I could. I don't know if the other communities experienced problems like we did after Helene and Milton, but we had a lot of Comcast problems. And I can't thank Paul Madry enough for all the residents that you helped. It means a lot to all of our residents for what you did.
Great.
And I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Pat Kepke, Osprey Point. I want to thank all of you for all your hard work, particularly your presentations. Always good, all of you. I do think we need maybe information. I personally am for a one-time assessment. I think we live in an amazing community. We have, like we all agree, not just location, so reasonable, all of our amenities, to play cards, to have all the things that Lynn does for us. That is all included. And whether we partake or not, it is a selling point. That's why the sales are always so good. So personally, I think all of you have done a great job. And if we have an assessment, I'm for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Sure, if you come to the mic, if you come to the microphone, because the people on,
shouldn't be an assessment, it should be part of the budget. You're
That's what it
right
is.
to put in the line, oh, capital budget, and then add that $125 in there. I don't know what.
It's the same thing, Arthur.
It is the way it's being presented.
We have one question online, Paul.
They're asking about who we reviewed against.
You don't have that with you, do you? That's unlikely.
Give you a quick, I think,
Okay, comparing resale fees to other communities.
So we've Audubon, Esplanade, Kensington, Pelican Bay, Pelican Landing, the Quarry, Stonebridge, Teresa Bay, Vanderbilt Country Club, and the Vineyards.
And those are, can you just rattle off?
So I can tell you right now, as of this year's area resale fees currently, Audubon charges $3,000, Esplanade is $7,500, Kensington is $2,372. It's a weird number. Pelican Bay is $10,000, Pelican Landing is $4,000, we're $7,500. The Quarry is $5,500, Stonebridge is $5,700, Treviso Bay is $5,000, Vanderbilt Country Club is $15,000, and the Vineyards does not have a transfer fee or resale fee.
We're different, man.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm Suzanne Barbario, and I live at Les Chateaux. And I've been to all your meetings, or most of them. And I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made here about this assessment not being for a particular thing, but just to fill up the coffers. The thing about the assessment, the transfer fees for some of these other neighborhoods, and I don't know if you've divided it up this way, but some of those neighborhoods do require that the new owners buy into their country clubs that are there. We don't have that here. So having a little bit more money to pay to live in here should not be the problem. The thing is if you're going to move into, I don't know about Audubon, I know they have a country club. I know some of them do require that you put the 35, 45, even $85,000 down for membership in their country club also. So the transfer fees can stay kind of low because they know you're already putting those fees into their golf courses. That's one thing when you're looking at homes and you're new in the area, which we were 7 years ago. But is that some of them require you to be a member of their club. And if that is, you do have to pay those exorbitant fees. So of course, they're not going to have a large fee just to transfer real estate from one to the other. I don't know if those are some of the communities that you've mentioned, Paul, but raising our transfer fee is sort of having that opportunity to have a great neighborhood, and for right now, $7,500, that's buying into the country club is pretty low in comparison. And having it on the upfront, you're paying to get in and you're looking at your monthly fees and things where you don't have to buy a fitness membership. You can play tennis, pickleball, play cards, and do all the things that our club has here. But it's not 35, 85,000 to put down on it. So I just thought I'd mention that when you're comparing prices on things and how much it would cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have more, Steve?
I have a question. I just have a question. And I honestly, I don't know the answer to this. So the question is it possible, is it ever done where the transfer fee is a two-tier fee? Where you have a single family transfer fee and a multi-unit condo transfer fee? So that you could say, okay, you've got a $500,000 condo, but then you've got a $5 million home. Percentage wise, you could maybe because the transfer fee is easy money, and I don't really honestly believe. I mean, the last time we raised it to 7,000, nobody believed, the finance committee didn't believe it would have a negative impact on home sales here, and it didn't. I don't honestly believe it would if we moved it to 9,000, as Jim has suggested. My question is, Could you leave the fee where it is for condos and just bump it up for the single family homes? It would be,
My only comment to that is that though, this is really for all of the amenities that everybody gets to share, the pickleball and everything else. And it's like, you're not really treating people fairly. Like if you move into Muirfield versus, Ariel, do you think you should pay 10 and I should pay 5?
I understand that, but if you look at a country club model, as the last speaker mentioned, you have people who are playing on the tennis court right next to each other, one of whom is a full sports member or a full golfing member who pays a lot more money every month and in terms of initiation fee than the social member who's playing right next to them. They're using the same facility, but they pay vastly different amounts. Now they get different stuff. So your point is
I mean, really what the capital improvements are when you come inside the community center and it's here. And so regardless if you live in a condo or you live in a house, everybody's using the same amenities. So I don't.
point. It's a fair point. I just
Interesting
wondered-
concept. I just think it would require some analysis. And for the purposes of moving forward with the budget, which we need to vote on and get in place for next year, I think it might be premature
Sure.
to do
I
that
don't even
now.
know if it's illegal.
I think we'd have to change our bylaws.
No, we're getting all the comments. Any other comments?
I'd just like to say again that in the 30 years that this community has existed, they have done everything through resale fees, including this building when it cost $1 million back when it was built.
2.5.
And yes, they took a loan to do it. They paid for it out of resale fees. From 20 to 24, you spent $1.5 million to improve this community. I'm saying, folks, look, sure, there may be some issues with the gym. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's time to kind of, you don't have the planning workshop in front of you. And then the idea that that's what you're going to do is fine. And I think maybe it doesn't affect whatever you're going to do internally in the gym as far as parking, but we still have that cloud is hanging over us. And I do hear there is some agreements. But as a board member, and I ask each one of you out there, have you ever seen an agreement where we can do something across the street? I haven't seen it. And then what about the safety of people coming across a busy boulevard I mean, we have to address all of that. So I think it's premature. And and you ask if anybody in the community has said anything. I went to the Watercress Board meeting this week. I had 7 people tell me they wondered what we were doing and why we were going to assess for something we didn't have. And then I've talked to other people. Do they come here and voice their opinion? I'm thankful to people that came here today. But people, when you're going to hear from? The day you send out this invoice to the HOAs, and they're going to say, what the hell is the foundation doing? That's when you're going to get blowback. So I'm saying up front, I think it's premature, and I think you got a lot of room in transfer fees for the value that you get that you don't get in other communities. It's very difficult. The only one you might compare to is Pelican Bay, and they've got a beach. And believe me, it costs a lot more to live there than it does here. So again, I encourage the board. I hear a couple other members that are with me. I think it's premature. We should remove it. And then if we need to do something, you can add to the transfer fee. You could do it in December, but whenever you do it, it'll be structured so that any homes under contract will not be affected. Thank you for listening to me and for the time this afternoon.
I think the flip side of that, though, is that if we have this long-term planning meeting in December and we decide we've got some projects that we'd like to get done, it would be probably disappointing for folks to hear that, great, we now have identified what we need the money for, but we won't have that money for another year, so nothing will happen for a year. So
Yeah, that's
when we borrow money and pay the interest. And then when we get the resale fees, we pay back and not pay the full interest term. That's what Steve was suggesting, the way I forget who it was suggesting the way we normally,
You
We normally do
could
business.
provide the asset. It's a question of how you're gonna pay for it. And I'm saying if you need to do it now, but by the time you would get somebody to bid on this, to get all the approvals and everything, you're gonna probably be into 2026. I mean, this is not one of these things that you automatically can do tomorrow, even if you had the money.
Paul, any thoughts on how long it would take us if we had the money to do it, to get the gym done and?
Well, we already have the design from from our architect for doing the work. And we already have a preliminary bid, to get the construction done. So it's a matter of getting that bid updated with today's numbers. And depending on how busy they are, I'm guessing we could get it implemented next summer. Again, it all depends on what they did.
Yeah, I don't think any of this
We were
is
looking
relevant.
around $800,000 to do the work back
Yeah.
then.
I mean, I don't think it's relevant when we can get it done in 1 year, 2 years, whatever. I mean, we've had the feedback. The issue on the table is, do we keep $250,000 in the budget or
Yep,
not?
no, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
I
But I
mean,
just
let's-
want to answer some of the
To your
questions. that
point,
people
Brian,
have.
yes.
Yeah, Rich.
We all talk about transparency. When the vote was for pickleball, there was no assessment because the money was there. And now this is all turning into wanting to get a gym. And if that's what this money is about, then let's have a discussion about the gym. How many bikes are there? How many people bike? Do we have data on that? Do we need 300 bikes or do we need 30 bikes in 10 different hours? I don't know. I'm walking by the church and you're there and you got your hand out and I don't want to give you money. Now you're telling me it's for the bikes. And I just want to say that there's been a lot of wisdom here about know what you want to do before you ask for money. And that's the transparent way of doing it. So I think you should vote.
Thanks, Rich.
Arthur?
I think we should vote because I need to use the bathroom. Yeah.
You promise this is the last comment?
Can't hear you. It's crazy to call something an assessment when it's not an assessment. Put the budget line in capital, put $125 in there. You have a right to have a capital fund. And you have a right to fund that capital fund without people from the community. And if people are complaining, I gotta tell you something, half of the people don't even know what they're paying for. They don't even know what the CDD is.
That make it right?
No, it doesn't make it right. It's their obligation to find out, but if you need money in that capital fund, put it in there.
Okay.
That's really the deal.
Thanks, Arthur. Let's go ahead and vote. Jim, we'll start with you. We'll go around the table.
I vote to remove the capital fund assessment fee. I vote.
Well, I think we have to phrase what we're voting on. Okay, so we have a
motion.
we have a
And
budget
thank
on
you.
the table that currently includes a $250,000 line for capital. So the question is, do we approve the budget as is?
Do we improve it or do we take out the
If
130?
the budget is not approved as is, then we have to propose what budget we do want to approve. And it's as simple as taking the 250 out, then we vote again.
Okay.
I like that.
All
If
right.
that's a
Vote on
motion,
the
I vote to
original
take it out.
budget. To Brian's point, let's vote on the original budget. And then we vote if we want to keep the assessment of 250 in or out.
Okay. Jim, we know where you stand, but why don't you say it in your own words? You want,
So
the- you
what
want the
what I'm
250
saying
out.
is if we go with the original budget without the assessment, I vote for it.
Oh,
But if you-
can I make a motion?
Jim,
Can I make a motion? I motion that we vote on the budget as it appears, as it's been presented to the community. So,
I vote no.
no,
Well,
someone
we-
needs to second it first.
Oh,
So we can.
Second.
Then we can, now we have a motion on the table. Now you can go collect your votes.
Okay, so you're voting
No, I'm.
to have the $250,000 in the budget as it's
Yeah,
been
I'm
presented.
making that motion that we vote on that.
Okay, do we have a second?
I seconded it for discussion.
I'm not following you.
Okay,
Let's be
It's-
clear what we're voting on.
Yeah.
Once again, there's been a motion to approve the budget as presented to the community
Yes
that
or
has
no?
now been seconded. So we should
I'm
vote.
going to withdraw my second because if it dies for a lack of a second, you got your answer.
Is there a second to
do we
the
have a-
motion?
Actually does.
Motion to approve budget as presented.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll,
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Right,
Okay.
second, now we have
Now you can vote on it.
Now we could vote.
Okay,
as
so we have,
presented. We have one single proposal. That's for a budget that includes $250,000 to be allocated towards capital.
okay,
So now we can vote on.
okay.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have three people. Okay,
I make a motion that we remove the 250,000 from the capital line. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you could take the no's first. I'm sorry.
so we've got three yeses and 4 noes.
You don't have four no's.
You got to ask for the
Okay.
no's.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Daniel Uve and
All those against?
Aye.
Okay. Okay,
What-
now you want to,
Yeah, I make a motion that we edit the budget to remove the 250,000 line item for capital.
do we have a,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
So do we have an approved budget?
Yes.
so we have the budget.
Yes.
That's a lot of discussion for $130.
No, but it's the right thing to do. To talk it out.
I like it, yeah.
Yeah. So we have one, Paul, we still have one item left. You gotta do what?
I can do 400,000, give me the extra money.
What's, in a few words, like, what?
Okay, no,
Moving the 250 from the budget for capital improvements. That now brings the assessment to a total of $2,083. Which includes the operational portion and the cable portion.
Right. Can I just make
Thank
a
you, Paul.
comment on process?
What's the total number?
2083.
So can I just make a comment on process? So the draft budgets was given out to the HOAs. Some of those HOAs have already done their budget approvals. Paul, will you work with those other HOAs, inform them quickly that we have
We've
revised?
already
it?
got it, an email in draft, ready to go out today, of what the new number is going to be.
Perfect.
Paul, can I suggest something that you ask the HOA? That you ask the HOA to break down the cost between cable and the foundation. Because a lot of people, when they look at the $2,000 figure, they think it's all.
That's the way we give it to them. We give it to them broken down.
I would suggest that you ask that they break it down to their members.
Moving on.
We got one last item.
So, and one thing was, we had one, architectural application this month, owner over in Oak Moss is getting a new roof. The, committee has reviewed it. It's a roof tile that's widely used to the community, so they approved it. Just need the official approval from the
A
board.
motion that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A motion we adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Gotta go to board member comments and.
No, I think we should have board comments.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I want to do, before we get, there was a comment on the, they didn't recall getting a survey or asking to give input on the assessment or the budget. I just want to make sure that, when the board reviewed the preliminary budget back last month, we did immediately send out the proposed budget to the members asking for their input. So if you didn't get it, check with the admin office, make sure you're on the email list, getting all the information from the community.
That's true. It did come in my email.
I know, I got it.
Okay, that was it.
okay. Okay. Board comments?
I'll go first, sure. For several months now, we have talked about getting with the golf board to have discussions about long-term items such as parking across the street. Have we had any success or opportunity to set up that meeting?
So I spoke with the GM of the golf course recently and through Joe Leone, hope to get that connection. we decide anytime after the holidays, Thanksgiving, he said to be available. So we'll find a good date after the holidays to do that meeting.
Ideally, we would have that discussion, at least the first discussion before the long-term planning session.
We could do like the first week in December.
Secondly, and you've mentioned this already, Joe, I know the bocce committee has voiced their concerns both aesthetically and from an access perspective of the stationary bikes in the bocce area. And it's just, once again, reiterating the need to come up with both a short-term and a long-term plan for those bikes.
All right,
Just for the record.
okay, thank you.
My question is, have we set a date for the long-term planning workshop?
No, but we could do that now.
Okay.
Could I
Before
just,
you go to that, as Brian's comment, I think we want to turn this spin bike thing over to Paul. Let him work with the entities within this building and find out, is there a better way to handle spin bikes? I think he's had a couple ideas he shared with me. And I would encourage us to say, Paul, see what you can figure out.
Yep.
Rather than us all trying around,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah,
that's a good
I
idea.
agree.
that's your job, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, if you need help, I'm
In the
more than
last 4
willing to
years, Paul
assist
hadn't
you.
had a chance to think about that.
Get paid the big bucks for.
On the long-range planning, can I
uh,
suggest we do it?
Behind the curtain. Lot of room back there.
On the long-range planning session, can I suggest we do it after the new year when more people are here?
I'm,
That's fine.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because we're not gonna have any money anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter.
Might as well just wait till after the first of the year.
Okay. Do you want to set it now after the first year? People start thinking about it?
We should set it for Groundhog's Day since it keeps coming up over and over.
What's that?
Let's do it a week beforehand,
I would do it beforehand.
All right, so.
at least.
Well, typically we have our meetings on a Thursday in the afternoon. So if the board meeting's on the 16th of January scheduled, we could do it on the 9th of January.
I like that date.
It's a good date. Morning or
That work for everybody? Thursday?
I have a personal issue on the 8th. I won't be able to attend on the 9th. Yeah.
You can't on the 9th?
I don't think so. I think I'll still be.
Yeah, but we don't want to meet
Hospital.
without you, Brian.
Oh, that's right. You have surgery. Okay.
Could we do it?
Oh. What about February?
I hate to do it the week before because it's just after New Year's.
Yeah.
So how about the 10th, the Friday? Friday meetings.
you're still gonna probably be, he's saying probably the first,
How about-
first,
Can we do it early that week? Like the 7th?
when's your surgery? Where is your?
Is it? brain
8th, and I'm
surgery?
staying overnight.
No, we can do it on the 7th, which is Tuesday.
7th is a Tuesday. That's a good day.
Sure.
Tuesday, the 7th?
Okay.
Is this what I want to do before a surgical procedure?
Keep your mind off of it.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody,
Does that work?
That's good to me.
I think we've got a date.
2 p.m.
Why don't you give everybody, give everybody an email and just confirm before we send it to the community and then have to change it.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
This is
So
where we can
right
check
now,
with
we're
our
gonna-
significant others and find out if that works. Or if people have travel plans, et cetera. Okay.
7th of January, I understand.
Is that everything? Any other, yes, comments? Absolutely.
Talk fast. I really do drink a gallon of water a day.
So sorry. Melinda Reed from Egrets. Just have a question. The survey that was done, am I right? Is that 5 years ago?
Yeah,
So almost 5.
So
ballpark.
almost
Almost 5,
And
yeah.
the plans for the fitness center were drawn up 4 years ago?
2022, the final
So 3
plans.
years. And, we know the demographics have changed dramatically over the years so if the survey was 5 years ago, how many houses have been sold since then? I'm just
About
wondering
100 a
as
year.
we have.
But about
the-
65.
Yeah,
ballpark.
Per
last
year.
couple of years have been about 65.
So that's per year. So since
Probably
the survey, we
300,
have,
250,
No,
300.
between that
But-
period of time, 165.
The other survey we did back then too, we asked which amenity do you use? And the number one amenity by far was the gym. The people said they use that, a lot more people use the gym than any other amenity.
Right. So, you know, and I know the demographics have changed, a lot of new people. Time has passed since that original survey. And I just wonder, as part of the long-term plan, you know, that really, I hope it's just not going to be kind of a rush. Let's get this plan and let's, you know, get talking about and build off what was done 5 years ago, you know, from the survey. You know, just something to think about. Should we have another survey? It's been so long. We have so many new people, you know.
How quickly could we pull a survey together and send it out so that we'd have information for that meeting?
Well, what I would think we would do is, we'd first send out an email to all the residents saying, we're having this workshop on this date. Please supply ideas you would have. You know, we can kind of gather those. Have the workshop, then put everything on paper, and then send out a survey to the membership and saying, here's what we got. What do you think? And then get free feedback.
I like
Okay.
that.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I just
plan.
think it's important to make sure we're fresh, you know, and we've got everything is more current.
Thank you, Melinda.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn.
So
So
move.
motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Gary?
Yeah, thank you.
Some good one.